Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Invocation by First United Methodist.
Would you join me in prayer? God of wisdom, hope, new life, and love, we pause for just a moment to catch our breath and to look beyond the cares of this day to give thanks to you for the very gift of life. As we journey further into spring and the power of Easter, may the love and life that you provide bless our community. I pray for the men and women of this council, as well as the men and women of our city staff in all that they do to provide leadership, direction, and assistance to all in this community that call it home. May your love for all people guide the discussion and decisions that are made at this table tonight. And in all that we each do, may we seek to live out Jesus' words to love you, O God, and also to love our neighbor. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sabers.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Dosher. Here. McCardle. Barrington.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Sharks. Here. Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove?
Nothing to remove, but I saw in one of the reports, the water report, the SCADA data wasn't available for a couple days. Was that our issue or BY's issue?
I believe it was a Dakota Pump issue, if I remember right.
Okay, so it got taken care of in just 2 blank days, and the third day was the 3 days added together, but
Correct.
I didn't know if we had a technical malfunction or...
There should be a way to do a manual read on the meter. That water won't be lost anyway.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Discussion.
Did you want to mention the volunteers?
Oh, the boards. Yes, we will be. Park and Rec Board has two volunteers being appointed. Dennis Thompson will be appointed to fulfill a term through June 30th, 2024, and Adam Schultz will be appointed to fulfill the same. They're taking the place of somebody who requested to be removed. So. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I had a question on, for the Stampede Rodeo, for the liquor license. I heard on the radio that their contract is null and void now, so would it still be at the Horseman's, or don't it? Because I heard after the hearing the other day that they said that everything was non-binding anymore.
They submitted it at Horseman's, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not
So
sure.
that was probably before the...
It probably was. I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
The hearing won't be until the next council meeting, so maybe something will
Okay.
come up between that. Because I'm not sure what Justin is aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything else. I know that up until this point, I think we've all been under the assumption that they were going to be doing it there one more year, and then next year they would be at a different location, but I don't know if the outcome of the court case has changed that or not.
If it does change, it would just go, wait 2 weeks we'd have to set the date again and change locations. Yeah, there's, should, knock on wood, plenty of time. So. Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to address this? You want public commentary, don't you?
Can I do it now?
No, gotta wait for public
Well,
comment.
was it on this issue?
Oh, come on up, if you want to talk on this issue.
I just,
You brought it up, so you
I
can.
just wanted to clarify, Kelly Paff, just representing myself, no one else. So you're going to postpone the liquor license approval for 2 weeks?
No, it will be set the date right now. They'll have to withdraw it if they're not going to.
It will not be approved tonight.
No, it's only to hear it in 2 weeks.
That was my only concern.
Is MADC going to say anything?
I apologize. David Lambert with Mitchell Area Chamber and Development, pinch hitting for Jerry Beck, who's off with professional development. You should have received the first quarter report in your packet. Are there any questions?
That was easy, huh?
Okay.
The only question, the house that we took down on
Yes.
7th, how soon
Right.
would that be?
Good question, Steve. Terry Sabers.
Fill in or what, or?
Right, Terry Sabers wasn't able to join us, but he indicated that obviously the cleanup and replacement
Underway.
of 622 North Duff. Yep, and so they believe that construction will start above ground in 10 days.
Oh,
Yep,
great. Okay, good.
so we're moving right along. The other thing that Terry mentioned was obviously that the remaining new home across from Hitchcock Park at 1301 East Birch, they reduced the price and actually put in new appliances in that, and they've got some strong interest right now. So they're hoping within the next 30 days to have that moved as well.
Yeah.
So, obviously, funding for other aspects of housing, our affordable housing, our workforce housing components, we're still waiting for federal and state funding to come through. The state at this point continues to sit on the $200 million, but I'm being told that obviously, hopefully that will move forward here in the next 30 days or so.
Got an interim director now.
They got a new director, right?
Yep, interim.
Yeah. Workforce is the other critical issue, and obviously, Gigi Ramirez from our staff has been working diligently on Workforce Wednesday, and those employers looking for employees had some success. That's reflected in the report. We're thrilled about that. We continue to work on recruitment efforts outside of the area to bring new employees into the area. And then, of course, you know, we're looking down the road a ways at the middle school age and high school age kids and looking at CNA training, Certified Nursing Assistant Training workshop that's coming up this summer, as well as some CTE type courses to share, obviously, in the areas of manufacturing and technology, what's available in the community so that young people, as they continue to grow, recognize that there are opportunities here to stay at home just by working with their local employers.
Dave, do you have a sense of, when you said success, is there people moving just around Mitchell, or are some of them actually moving in?
You know what? That's a good question, Jeff. I wish Gigi were here to answer that question.
Next time.
Yeah, I will ask her, and hopefully we'll get an answer back to you.
Hopefully we got a few people.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Do you, Dave, check, I mean, do you have any information of who's leaving, who's coming into this town, or do we just wait for a census? How
Yeah,
do you guys track it at the Mitchell Area Development Chamber? How do you guys track?
you know, that's a good question. I don't have a clear sense as to the fact that we have a good sense on a regular basis.
Sure.
I will tell you that, obviously, when we visit our friends at Tobin, they can kind of give us a gauge as to how many people are leaving and how many are coming in a certain category. Obviously, not everybody uses a moving service, but they certainly can provide us with that.
It'd be nice to have something, I don't know, quarterly and see
Yeah.
what's coming in, what's leaving.
Yep.
Are we gaining? Are we going to be like this for the last 10 years?
Right, exactly, and that's a very good point, Dave. So,
Very good.
And another one I would think would be the apartments, to see what the vacancies, are.
And we keep track of that probably on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
And of course, we've got some MTI students and some DW students that are using those, and those open up, and so,
Yep.
but we're continually monitoring that. But you know what? We'll put that in the report as well, because that's all good information to have.
Great.
Anything
Okay.
else? Thank you.
You look good.
Thank you. Yeah, getting better every day. Thank you for asking.
Okay, anybody else wish to address any of these items? Okay, roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charks.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input. If you need to address the mayor, members, city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken. Does anybody wish to address council?
Mr. Mayor, you asked if I wanted to make public comment, and, that's a dangerous thing to say to a preacher, so. I just want to come before this board, kind of like I did a year ago, just to say thank you to you for the staff and leadership that you help hire and supervise here in our city. This last year, for the last 2 years, my wife and I have gotten an extra plot in the community garden and have used that plot to give to the food pantry. And last year, we were able to give them 275 pounds of produce, which is, I think, a great thing to help with food insecurity. So again, I just want to say thank you to all of you, the leadership, for allowing things like that to happen creatively in our community to help care for sometimes those who are less fortunate here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else wish to address council? Did you?
No, I said what I wanted to say.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council to do recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? All those in favor of the, you missed him 2 weeks ago, he was clean cut already. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on the application of Marcy Stoltz. Marcy Stoltz has applied for conditional use permit to operate a child care family residential located at 937 East First Avenue, legally described as Lot 1, Block 1 of Menzenhager and Hager Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property is zoned R3 medium density. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, twin brother to former. Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0 with the 3 normal conditions. License is non-transferable. If business cease to operate for 6 months, new application will be required, and pass a fire inspection. They have passed a fire inspection already. She currently has a existing daycare on the west side of town. She's moving to a new location, renting at a new spot. The landlords are okay with this. You received 3 letters for it in the packet. There was one against. The one against had concerns about parking. Street parking is public right of way, so anybody can park there. The issue with the previous daycare that was just on the block, though, that was actually a business, not just homeowner, so there were actually more employees there than just the homeowner. So there was actual people parking there all day long instead of just drop off and pick up. The applicant is working with the state to get a grant for a fence in the backyard to put that up. Until then, she plans to just use the parks in the neighborhood. And I can answer any other questions you may have.
Am I to understand that she did go and visit, the applicant did go and visit with that neighbor who was against it and talk to her about making sure that those parents were aware that they couldn't park and all of those things?
Yes, that's correct. She did visit with the neighbor across the street, told her if there were any issues that she would work on them as soon as they arose. And I believe the conversation was cordial, but I don't know anything more than that.
Move to approve with the conditions set forth by the Planning Commission.
Okay, motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 5/1/23. Cully Evers has applied for conditional use permit to operate a telecommunications tower located at 2700 North Main Street. Legally describes Lot 1 of Brig Addition, the subdivision of irregular Tract 12, the southwest quarter of Section 10, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Primary Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned highway business. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 5/1/23. Cully Evers has applied for a variance permit for a height of 174 feet versus 65 feet for construction of a telecommunication tower located at 2700 North Main Street, legally described as Lot 1 of Brig Addition, subdivision of irregular Tract 12 of the southwest quarter, Section 10, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Primary Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property is owned highway business.
Move to set the date.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion?
Can you just tell us what this is for?
They want to put a cell tower out at the old Lake House location.
The Lake House Restaurant.
Right.
That's what I
Correct.
thought. So for a certain business or?
They want to have the ability to rent their tower space to sell services. Is the way it was explained to me when they came in and talked to us. It has to go to planning and zoning. So. Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience want to speak to this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 5/1/23. Erica Hennessy has applied for a conditional use permit to operate a child care, preschool, and nursery located at 1325 Palmer Place, legally described as Lot 5 and west 3 feet of Lot 4, Block 8, Garden View Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property zoned R2, single-family residential.
Set the date.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 5/1/23. Kelly Jones applied for a variance permit for a rear yard roadside setback of 20 feet versus 30 feet for construction of a house and attached garage located at 84 North Harmon Drive, legally described as Lot 42, a Bayside subdivision, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Said property is owned RL Residential Lake. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Rice. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reconvene as City Council. Obtain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council reconvene in regular session. Motion by Mr. Barrington.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on the following alcohol license application. On the application to transfer RB 26966 retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license from Lucky Clovers LLC, 1100 East Havens Avenue to Lucky Clovers LLC, 720 South Montana. License will be inactive. Mr. Coster, any issues?
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster at the Police Department. On item 10, you have two items, and we have no concerns of either of these.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to transfer RB 26967 retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license from Lucky Clovers LLC, 1100 East Havens Avenue to Lucky Clovers LLC, 720 South Montana. License will be inactive. Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce you to Dan Polrice. He is being recommended tonight as the new fire chief. Stand up if you would, Mr. Polrice. He had served as a captain in the fire service. We interviewed 3 very good candidates for the job. It was good interviews all around, and after some heavy discussion, he was selected. So I would like to recommend his appointment as the chief of fire and EMS.
Move to approve Dan Polrice.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. All right, Mr. Pollock, swear you in quick. All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me if you would. I, Dan Polrice, having been appointed to the office of Chief of Fire and EMS within and for the City of Mitchell.
I, Dan Polrice, having been appointed to the office of Chief of Fire and EMS within and for the City of Mitchell,
Davidson County, South Dakota.
Davidson County, South Dakota,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of South Dakota,
and the ordinance of the said City of Mitchell,
and the ordinances of said City of Mitchell,
and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability,
and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my knowledge and ability,
perform all duties of the office of Chief of Fire and EMS.
perform all the duties of the office of Chief of Fire and EMS.
Okay? If you would come up here so we can sign this, please.
Come on up.
Come on, come on, come on.
I already did.
All right, thank you. Welcome aboard. I'm going to give this to you, Mrs. Matthew, so I don't lose it. Okay, item 12, action to approve agreement A 2023-14, TIF 29, developer agreement. Mr. Johnson, are you starting that off?
I sure can. I'll try to provide a brief summary here. Council previously approved and created TIF 29. This would be the property at 300 North Main Street, which is being developed by John Adamo. When approved, the project plan included a number of terms and also provided that there would be a separate developers agreement that laid out some additional terms as to how those funds, TIF proceeds, would be distributed. So this is the developers agreement that was discussed in the project plan. There is a little bit of updated language in this one just to tie it in a little bit better with the reporting requirements that we had in the project plan. So it's very similar to what you've seen in past developers agreements that have been approved. Section 13 that Stephanie just put on the screen there is a little bit of new language, and that's probably the biggest change that you'd see in there other than changing the dollar amounts. Other than that, it's a pretty standard part of the process, and I can stand by for any additional questions.
Okay, any questions?
I'll move approval of agreement A 2023-14.
Yeah, we have a motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Mr. Peterson, you got anything to say?
I've got the original for, if you approve it. Then give it to Justin.
Okay. Okay, hearing nothing. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2023-21, plat of lots 1 through 13, Lot A of Sharpstone Deuce Edition. Excuse me, Mr. Janigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 7-0. The master plan for this area was approved September of '22. There was a PUD that was created for this area as well in September of '22. This plat follows along all those guidelines for the PUD. There will be the 13 lots and then the road in the middle of it, which will be a privately owned road for that area. Planning Commission had no issues with it. Public Works has no issues. We've worked through it. I can answer any questions you may have.
I know that one of the concerns that the neighbors had was drainage and making sure that there's the capacity to, for the utilities to support all of these new homes. Has that been thoroughly vetted and examined?
Yep, their drainage plan has been submitted by a registered engineer. It meets our ordinances and has been approved.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Mr. Kerner, you got anything you want to say? Nope. Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2023-22, plat of West Plum Avenue, lots 13 through 26, block 2, lots 1 through 7, block 3, and drainage tract 1, block 4, MLC addition. Mr. Janigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 6-0 with one abstaining. You'll recall back in September, you saw something similar to this for a plat. They had a master plan that was approved then and then a plat as well. The plat was never recorded. They needed to make some changes. So there's one less street that's in there. The road got shifted a little further north. At Planning Commission last week, they approved the master plan for this area. Public Works reviewed the drainage and all utilities for that. And then this is the plat that goes along with that area.
I'll move to approve R 2023-22.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2023-23, plat of Urbana Drive, Sammy Davis Avenue, Dean Martin Court, East Point Avenue, lots 7 through 16, block 1, lots 1 through 15, block 2, lot 1, block 3, and drainage tract 1 of Stardust Edition. Mr. Jenick.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 6-0 with one abstaining. The master plan for this area was approved back in September of '22. Looked at drainage for the area, utilities. Public Works has worked through that. We have no issues with it. It follows their master plan that they submitted.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Sabers.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2023-24, a resolution amending the 2023 compensation plan. Ms. Ellen.
Mayor and council, included in the packet is a resolution that would just add one additional part-time position. It's not requiring any additional budget because it will come out of the Park and Rec funds budgeted part-time wages. This position is grounds maintenance, and it would be used for some tree cleanup and other maintenance work around the lake to help out with their regular full-time staff. I can answer any questions that you have. This is the first amendment to the pay plan for 2023.
So he would be, the person would be working with the volunteers that have been there, or is this staff?
I'm going to let Kevin Nelson with Park and Rec answer those questions.
He or she would be staff working under Steve, but with the crew that's out there, the volunteers, correct?
Correct. I mean, everything I've seen that they've been doing is just wonderful. I mean, they're cleaning up
This person will have the ability to operate heavy equipment as well.
with it, so,
Correct.
and it's just a win-win. I'm guessing the only people that don't like to clean up is the bass fishermen, but, as far as looks, everything's good, but, it's,
So far, they've talked some of the bass fishermen into helping, so.
ooh, I like it.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance O 2023-03, establishing the discretionary formula for certain classes of real property and setting boundaries for certain districts relating thereto. Ms. Elwine.
Mayor and council, included in the packet is an ordinance that would establish two different districts that qualify for discretionary formula within the city of Mitchell. We were approached by Mahi and actually in some conversations also with the Davidson County Commissioner about additional discretionary formulas that the city has not adopted. The two that the city chose to focus on are ones that would require us to establish an area within the city limits that meets certain definitions. The two areas that we looked at for adding discretionary formula, well, I won't show it on here first, hold on, really deal with our historic districts within the city of Mitchell. The first one would be an urban renewal area, and that's for industrial or commercial improvements in the black line there, which is our historic commercial district. The thought behind that is as you are well aware, we've had some buildings that have been deteriorating over time. By implementing the discretionary formula, those building owners that are making an investment in that building then get a phased-in tax increase on those improvements that they make. So our hope is that this will continue to encourage additional investment in the buildings in that area. The second area, and it's kind of hard to see on this map, would be this kind of dotted line here, and that's our residential historic district. That one we would be terming under the redevelopment neighborhood. So the house that you saw on earlier on the report for MADC, we had one on Duff Street where the tree went through the roof and there was several other issues. That's one of the houses that would be included in this district, as well as anything else in that area. So again, the idea is to encourage people to be making investments into these areas that have maybe need more repair and upkeep, and then their property taxes in turn will be phased in over a period of years. Justin drafted the ordinance for us. It was drafted in such a way that as we identify other districts that may fit into either this item A or item B, we can describe those additional areas within the ordinance. The state law does require that the city create those districts by ordinance, which is why we're proposing it this way. Later on in the agenda, you're going to see a comprehensive plan update. I don't know how in detail they're going to get into that plan, but I would just point out that if you review Chapter 5, it does a really good job of identifying other areas of town that really might qualify for the residential redevelopment neighborhoods. They show like a 80% dilapidated or 70% major repair needed. So I would just encourage you to look at that Chapter 5 of the, oh my gosh, comprehensive plan, sorry, yes, and make sure that you familiarize yourself with those other areas, because that's areas that we could focus these districts in the future. I did ask Justin to look if we could just draw a line around the entire city limits, and that does not work. So we do have to go one at a time and identify the areas that we want to qualify. So I'll let Justin answer any questions about the legality of the ordinance. Again, this is first reading, and our intention is just trying to encourage some investment in the areas of town that maybe need a little more maintenance and upkeep right now than some of the newer areas of town.
Question, so if someone in one of the areas, then just pick the black outline area, if they do some improvement, do they automatically qualify?
Yep.
And are not voted on individually? They're just anybody that does improvement in that defined boundary gets the discretionary tax assessment?
Yep, that's correct. They get it automatically unless they waive their right to it.
Unless they waive their right to it.
So what's automatically, is it like 20% the first year, or what's the formula?
So the formulas are split depending on which area you're talking about, because one is split over 5 years and one is split over 7 years.
Okay.
The actual percentage breakdowns you can see under Section 5, just a little bit further down, Stephanie.
There we go.
Yep. So The subsection A there would be for the residential type, and then the second one would be the commercial and industrial.
And I guess I would also add, I did have someone ask about, we do have 2 TIFs in downtown district here that have a single property. As part of those TIF approvals, we already had required that the developer waive the right to the discretionary formula because we want that increment to generate high enough to pay off the improvements that are noted in the plan. So because that property owner waived, those don't qualify, but everybody else within the district would.
Okay.
Is there a certain dollar amount that it has to? It's probably in there, and I probably missed it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then second of all, I'm sure we would pick them up when they come in and get their building permit. Would that be a true statement, or how else would we know that?
Department of Equalization would do that as part of their
Oh.
reassessment annually as well.
And this first reading on this, right?
Correct. First reading.
Trying to find it here. Right here. Yep. No, here, hold on.
And 30,007.
30.
Yeah, here's number 1. So this is the urban renewal area, would be $30,000 minimum value. The residential redevelopment neighborhood is a minimum eligibility of $5,000. So we're really dealing with, right? Are they in the right, 1
Yep.
in 7?
Yep, and that's based off of the increase from whatever work that they're doing. So
Okay.
from existing valuation to valuation after the properties, after the project.
And then again, like I said, the ordinance was crafted in a way that if we identify other areas that we want to focus on, we can also adopt
Probably
those districts.
East of Maine.
Yep, and there's some that were west of Maine as well that were kind of identified in that survey that was done as part of the comprehensive plan as well. But really, we could look at anything that someone would bring to us.
And this could be the newest house or building in that area, and if they do it improvements, they would still qualify? Or does it have to be a certain age or on a historical?
As long as it's
List?
within that district, it should qualify.
Interesting.
But since we chose an area where it's in more of the core of the city, it's going to be more rehabs than new construction. This isn't something that you would go create a district in a new housing development because they wouldn't meet the definitions in state law that allow us to define the district. They have to be dilapidated, they have to be, I can't remember the exact legal.
It's very similar to like a TIF situation where you have to make a finding of blight.
Blighted.
There you go.
So if you took some old buildings downtown Mitchell and someone wanted to buy a parking lot or the land, could this work on that or not?
I guess that depends on how the valuations end up shaking out. I guess if it was an improvement and it caused the valuation of that property to increase and meet that minimum that the state provides, then yes, I think it would still qualify. Practically, in a lot of situations, I don't know what the value is of, a building sitting downtown versus an empty lot downtown. I don't know whether that's going to be a value increase or not. It just depends on the lot.
So if you had the minimum on there, is there a maximum?
I don't believe that there
I don't
is.
think so.
You gonna build a building?
But I've got somebody that I don't probably do.
All right. All right, this is.
And
first
I guess
reading.
one last thing, one last comment. Similar to when we have the discussion about TIF districts, we're not losing any existing property taxes. You're just giving a phased-in approach to future taxes. So it's encouragement for people to invest in the property that they have.
Okay, first reading. Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. First reading on ordinance O 2023-04, updating the City of Mitchell Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Jenigus.
Mr. Mayor and Council, on March 13th, 2023, Mitchell City Planning Commission approved a resolution on a 7-0 vote to recommend adoption of the City of Mitchell Comprehensive Plan with suggested changes pursuant SDCL 11-614 and 11-616, and calls for the City Council to act upon the same. This has been a very ongoing process. I believe it was 2018 when the funds were set aside for 2019 for this to begin. COVID hit, then we waited for census numbers to make sure that we had the most current numbers to go with it, since otherwise we'd be already behind if we adopted it in 21. So we've continued to work through this. It's the City of Mitchell, Davidson County, Town of Ethan, and Town of Mount Vernon all working together for this. It's the first time in the state that it's been done. It's about a 270-page document, which I'm sure you all read front to back.
How many hours is into this thing?
Eric Ambrosen from District 3 can answer that one for you. They're the ones that really took the back of it and worked on it for the most. We've had plenty of meetings from city, county, the towns. I know that they had them as well. It's a guideline and a path forward for the City of Mitchell, which also Davidson County as well. It can be amended. It's not set in stone, but it's just where we think the city's going to go. So the last one that was approved was back in 1990 for the city, which per codified law, it's supposed to be done every 20 years. So a little behind the 8 ball on that.
12 years late.
Yeah. The county's was in 99, so theirs is closer to being done on time, but it's very labor intensive. Eric has put in a lot of hours into this. There's lots of great information in there, a lot of graphs, details. Eric can answer any questions that you may have or even give a great overview for you.
And in case you want a shortcut to that housing chapter, it's page 67.
I'd love it if you would kind of give us the high points. What do they call it?
Oh, the
Cover
highlights?
everything but barely touch anything?
Yeah. Well, it's a challenge. So I'm kind of known to extend unnecessarily the length of a meetings, and I know your council packet is like close to 500 pages thanks to this, but I'll try to be brief. Yeah, this started back in 1819 as a joint effort between Davidson County, City of Mitchell, Town of Ethan, and the City of Mount Vernon. And so it is kind of a landmark moment here with all of the entities working together to develop a vision for the future, and that's what the comprehensive plan is. It's a vision. It's a visionary document, and it all works together, and then hopefully all the communities and the entities will work together. A lot of times comprehensive plans just sit on a shelf, and it's mainly serves as the basis for doing zoning ordinances and other types of things. But hopefully this will be a document that gets used, gets pulled off the shelf frequently, and it's a roadmap, and hopefully we've set the course. And like Mark said, it's you can amend it, you can change it. You can even update it sooner than 20 years. You could do it in 5 years. You could do it in 10 years. So definitely something we can look at in the future. But they probably painfully know that planning is my passion, and so I definitely get into it a lot. But yeah, and like Stephanie mentioned earlier, some of those things that we talked about with neighborhoods and the core areas of Mitchell. A lot of that can be found in the housing chapter, and a lot of that was based off of a needs assessment that was done by a consultant out of Minnesota a few years ago, but I think it's still relevant today. And plus, it also kind of rolls into Chapter 11, I believe, has, well, before we would do the future land use plan, we also have kind of a land use concept map, which lays out the character of different types of development all throughout the county and the city. And so those core neighborhoods show up in the concepts or the land use design plan for Mitchell, that to some degree or another, those neighborhoods could be revitalized, and it may not necessarily be all housing intense. It could be a mix of things, but they're called out as being that type of character. And then the different areas are discussed later on in the land use chapter and in the chapter about Mitchell. Land use is chapter 8. I might just call it quits here, so don't extend any further. But I can answer any questions if you'd like.
What do you see the cities mainly using this for? It's kind of a roadmap, but just, is there grant opportunities, or what information do you glean from this that you can do immediately?
So the document itself is not going to be necessarily a golden ticket to any grant monies coming in. However, a lot of agencies that provide funding for various projects may ask, is the project, whatever you're working on, is it consistent with your comprehensive plan? And that would be, a case where then, this could justify, the need for certain things.
So give us the hours.
2,000? I'd say if we charge by the hour, yeah, you'd be probably six figures, I would imagine.
Are you going to put this on the website, Stephanie, so
Right
then?
now, the full thing is on the agenda right
Right.
here, but yeah, I
I
can
would
list it
think it'd
separately
be
if you'd like.
information that people would be interested in, and whatever topic they want to look at, it's in there.
And I can do some
I like the
social media
population one. We got to start paying more attention to that too, like Danny brought up.
So tonight's kind of the beginning of the end for this process, with the city council, looking at the document, having the public hearing, and then basically setting the date for second reading of an ordinance to adopt the comprehensive plan. And actually tomorrow at 9:30, the county the county commission is doing the very same thing. So we're coming in step with each other, and that's one thing I guess I do commend Mark and Jeff Bathke with the county on is working together. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily always work out, but a lot of good discussion, a lot of good debate, and I don't think, not too many names were tossed back and forth, not much name calling. So that worked out really good. So I think I could see this document then kind of setting the course for like future discussions about land uses, not just in Mitchell, but around Mitchell.
Anything else? Okay, we'll entertain a motion for first reading.
Thank you.
Motion by Mr. Race.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this?
I mean, it really is very impressive, what you put together.
It's fun.
Yep. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. All right, as you requested at the last meeting, a discussion on Main Street parking. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr.
Your
Mayor,
show.
Council. Mr. Mayor and Council. We'll dive right in. We'll talk about kind of Main Street in general. The width is approximately 56 feet. Right now, we have parallel parking, 2 driving lanes, and 1 center lane. So when you look through, I prepared a short memorandum kind of summarizing 60-degree parking, 45-degree parking, and then our existing parallel parking. So currently, from 6 down to Railroad, there are approximately 134 parallel parking spaces. If we were to incorporate 45-degree parking, we could bring that up to 206. Incorporating 60-degree parking could bring us up to 258. So that's almost double.
Okay, show us those numbers again. Do we have this?
Go down,
No, I
Stephanie.
just got it.
So the summary of the parking spaces is right there in the last 3.
What are most main streets, 45 or 60?
So, for instance, Phillips Avenue in Sioux Falls is approximately that 56. But with that, like the mayor said, comes challenges. The 60-degree parking, it's, as far as width goes, that's very tight. There is the situation where you could potentially have vehicles backing into the other driving lane. At 20 miles an hour, that may not necessarily be an issue. I mean, it's 56 is the minimum required parking per City of Sioux Falls design standards. 45 does fit a little better. I would say that is the compromise. And Stephanie, I don't know if you want to roll through the diagrams quick just to kind of give a frame of reference.
Joe, what
it
is
would look
Phillips
like.
Avenue?
Say that again?
Phillips is what angle?
It's from what I can measure off Google Earth, so there's a factor in there. I came up with around 56.
56.
Yep. No. Oh, you mean the parking stall, saying the width or the parking stall degree? I can't say for certain what they have. No.
He was compared to width of our street. Width of street.
Just before we get any further, let me ask a quick question. I was told that you can't park 25 feet from the end of from the corner.
Correct.
So what is the dimension of those bump outs? What, like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yep. So I believe we are so third is the only, third and sixth. Third will be bump outs into Main Street. The other intersections do not. They just bump out into the side street. The Third and Main bump outs are extended because that was going to be the enhanced intersection. I want to say we only still lose one parking stall because we had worked with the property owners along there about where we should start and end versus where those parking spots are. And I want to say we shortened them some to work with those businesses. So the exact distance I don't have.
Okay, but we wouldn't need to leave any additional space, or do we have to leave some additional space beyond the bump out to meet that criteria, that 25 feet?
No.
The bump out takes that full of
Correct. Yep.
Okay, that was my question.
Joe, years ago, I believe there was something up in the council here about trucks that needed not going through the alleys, but they went in the middle of the main street to unload. So tell me what parallel parking, would that affect that?
So with moving to diagonal parking, you would lose your center turn lane for deliveries. So deliveries would either block a lane of traffic, or they would have to do those deliveries from the side street or the alley.
It will also make snow removal issue.
Yep, snow removal. I reached out to Sioux Falls to ask how they handle snow removal on Phillips. And they basically said that they don't allow parking on Phillips for 32 to 36 hours while they're removing the snow. And once they start their snow emergency, you're not allowed to park on Phillips for that time, or you are ticketed and towed. So snow would be, if we did make the decision to move to diagonal parking, snow removal would be an issue.
And Joe, would there be an issue losing that center lane if there was diagonal on one side and parallel on the other?
Stephanie, you want to show that last? So this
We looked
was.
into that.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yep, this was a concept from 2013.
No, it was from long before that.
So yeah, this would be an option. That would help with snow some, but I think it would still be difficult.
This is out of your original Main Street streetscape design that was done it's long before I got here.
What's that? Yes, you would still lose the center lane in this. Yep.
Is there any record of when we went from diagonal to parallel? Because back in the 60s, it was diagonal.
I don't have that information.
Yes. So at some point, it went from diagonal to parallel and maybe back. Full circle. Yes.
Joe, those diagonally parking lots, will they fit a full-size pickup with a long box? Or they stick out too far?
Those are the ones that become a problem.
If
what
Main
I
Street
thought.
was full of dualies, we'd have a problem.
Yeah.
We'd be keeping Mike's staff busy because they'd be backing into each other.
I like to compare it to if you drive down Phillips in your vehicle, you feel somewhat uncomfortable because it's so tight and you're looking for vehicles. It's definitely a traffic calming scenario. If you ask me if I was going to take my big pickup down Main Street and park, I'm probably going to try and find a different place to park.
I spoke with Ashley Enders before tonight's meeting. She was unable to be here, but she did just a kind of informal survey. Mitchell Main Street at this point is not taking a formal position unless we ask them to do a more formal survey of not only, she said if we end up doing a survey, we might as well survey the entire community. But they can set that up where they ask not only the business owners, but we could make that available to everyone in the community. But, in her questions to the business owners, there were those who said, we need that center lane for deliveries, we need that center lane, we use it all the time, and there were others who said, well, gee, it might be kind of nice to have a couple of extra spaces. So I think it's probably, it's kind of one of those things that some people want it and some people don't, so.
One of my things too, Joe, is obviously I know it's a pleasant surprise to see that we can increase the spots, but I would be really curious on what kind of cost we get to do changes over. Not just with obviously the striping of the lanes, but obviously the signage down there, a mass amount of signs have to be changed and moved, and a lot of them are in concrete already and things like that too. So that's another thing that I think we need to consider just a little bit about what kind of dollar amount could we get into if we wanted to change this thing, which I know you don't know that number, and I'm not asking you to know that number, but I think it's something we all got to be concerned with on. I think the number would be quite higher than people are thinking.
That's a fair point.
What does your department think would be the best? You guys are the ones that we pay the big bucks to because you've got all the knowledge. What's your recommendation, if you were going to make a recommendation? And I know that it's not binding, but what would your recommendation be if it were?
It depends what our goal is. If your goal was strictly to increase spaces, then our personnel would just have to figure out how to remove snow differently. I do think that it needs to be taken into account that those businesses might not have parking 14 days out of the year when we have snowstorms, and for a whole day. And deliveries as well.
I would say it'd be more than one day because the storm takes a day and it'd take you a day or day and a half to get it removed.
Yep.
Then you wouldn't take deliveries either, would you?
The street would be closed. We threw around, putting one windrow in one of the parking lanes, then you'd have parking on one side but not the other. It would probably double the amount of time it takes us to clear Main Street. A recommendation is a tough thing to answer because it depends what you're trying to accomplish. I think this is good information to look at and think about and see if anything wants to be taken further.
Ultimately, does it change anything about the designs that we're working on with the bump outs and the renovations that we're doing?
The only thing that would change is it would be nice if you extended the bump outs on 3rd further out into Main Street to cover that vehicle. Because right now the vehicle, you can see right there on the left hand of the screen, you can see the vehicle would stick out further than the bump out, which which ideally it would be nice to extend the bump out to cover the vehicle, cover the parking stall.
That's if you were to go to diagonal.
Correct.
If you stay with parallel, you're all right.
Yep, correct.
Joe, expand a little bit more on when you said parallel on one side, diagonal on the other, it would help the snow removal some.
So it just allows us more room, an opportunity, more room. Yeah. We gain, I want to say, you gain 5 feet is all you gain, so half a lane. It's just, it's not quite enough to be able to have a place to store your snow.
Currently,
Especially-
that extra lane, yeah, currently the extra lane is used for, obviously, the storage of the snow till we get there after hours and pick it up. So
Yep.
you would not have that changing to diagonal, even if you do just one side.
Correct.
There you go.
You do see cities, and some of them are even as small as us, they do have parking ramps, but they are extremely expensive.
They need it too. $5 a day to park there. Did you pull in?
I'm surprised at how many extra spaces we get. That seems surprising.
Yeah, me too.
Have we ever taken any type of a survey to say on different times of the year or different days, you know, of our city parking lots? Are they 30% full that surround the historical district? You know, are they 50% full? Or are
Good
they
question. I've
full?
never had trouble finding a parking spot when I come downtown, like if I want to go to.
On
Mars
Main Street or
on Main
in-
Street. You know, it's more the,
Behind Fifth Street, like behind the old Moonlight, because they got apartments that park there. That's half full. Like when I go to sales tax, I have problem parking in the first part. But Fifth and Main is empty all day long.
My point is, I don't know if we have a parking problem or a walking problem.
well, yeah, therein lies some of it. They don't want to park very far away. And we've had that comment made to us by certain people, or by people, that, you know, when I go downtown, I have to park a block and a half, 2 blocks away.
Well,
Well, if you go to Walmart, a lot of times you're parking a half a block or a block to 2 blocks away.
in my conversation with Ashley, I wish she were here to share this story, but she has a sister who lives in Rapid City and who lived in a loft downtown. And what they have is where you can have permission if you're loading and unloading to park for a while, but, you know, I wish you were here. Ashley, if you're here. But basically, if you're there for longer than that period of time, then you're ticketed and towed. But otherwise, you have to go and park your car in one of
Isn't
the
that what
parking.
we do with our 15-minute zones?
Yeah, exactly. And this was like, let's say that you're getting a new appliance, or you're moving in, or you're, you know, something else that requires you to be parked for an extended period of time. But in general, the people who live in those apartments are not supposed to be parking all day long on Main Street or in the main areas. They're supposed to be in the parking lots that are behind those buildings. So that was her true life sister example from Rapid City of what they do there.
Okay.
Can this be put out on the website, or we didn't get any of this stuff until right now.
Yeah, I can post it for sure.
I'm just interested if we'll get public comment and that type of stuff, even if Mitchell Main Street isn't officially surveyed, but we could talk, if they want to put that survey out to everybody, the chamber might be able to send it out on their Monday memo and see what kind of response, comments we do get. I mean, they might be all over the place, but
Make sure you do put out a survey. It might be closed 14 to 20 days out of the year, too. Main Street.
Well, yeah, we'd have to figure out what pictures to put up and what comments to put on there, but
And we can just say on an average snow event,
how many
the number
times?
of days or hours it's going to be shut down for us in order to remove the snow.
We had a January blizzard like we had, and it would be longer than 2 or 3 days. Joe just said 4. I think he might be optimistic.
I think it's noteworthy, I think it would be worthwhile to ask the community as a whole. I mean, obviously, we want to make sure that we're asking those businesses, but the community as a whole, I think, should be able to participate in that survey if we can find a way to make that happen.
Well, we have access to Survey Monkey too, that we could put
That we
out
could just,
on our
maybe we could do it? Okay.
website and,
'Cause
and social media. If that's something council's interested in gaining feedback, I could draft a survey and send it out and have you review it, but
Okay.
it's up to you.
Because, Joe, I'm thinking we could go like the last 5 years and look how many District A alerts we put out and average it out, and for every District A alert we put out, you'll say some amount of hours or something, and this is what it would be over that 5 years. But, I mean, we should have that information, shouldn't we?
I would think so.
Something like that, and, I mean, it's so variable, but
Yeah.
go over a long enough period of time, we at least, and you know you can't put it in the middle, and if you do, the street's shut, and, I don't know, you're right that we might learn to do that earlier or later, I don't know. I mean, it might change our process. And you can think, well, if we went that way, a council might also say, yep, and we want additional equipment in order to either improve the situation or not, but all those type of discussions would have to be taken into account on any decision on this.
And let's face it, if you're pulling more people downtown to get the snow out earlier, the residential areas are going to take later to get
Oh, yeah.
plowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless
So
people
many
or
men,
equipment
so
are
many
added,
Pieces
right?
of equipment and so many hours.
Right. So unless that changes, then those times are going to
Right.
stretch out.
And deliveries they're going to be an issue, because you will know, if you go diagonal, you will no longer be doing that on Main Street, and I don't even know if they can get a semi down the alley.
They're busy. The alleys are busy.
So we end up with several buildings with chunks out of them. That's right.
So would there be room on those side streets? Didn't you say something about maybe having the delivery trucks deliver from the side streets?
It's a potential.
But even those would be
It'd be blocking traffic.
blocking traffic, yeah, because there wouldn't be anything. Yeah, I think that we talk about the snow, but it is something that's going to affect people year-round.
It will. Okay. All right, we'll see what we need to
Is
put
that
something
something you're wanting us to put together, or no?
I'd like to see it. And Ashley did send me a text just now saying that they would push it out on their social media and other venues.
Okay, I guess we'll put something together.
Get a comment from our new fire chief and see what he thinks of the pros and cons of this.
Ask him right there, he said. Welcome to the department head.
At least in your back turn.
Okay, anything else on this? All right, we'll put something together and see what we can do. Or adjourn.